My name is Thaya Madhvi. I am working as Assistant Professor in School of Business and Management, Jaipur National University, Jaipur. Today, I am going to teach you the subject Environmental and Disaster Management. In this session, I am going to give an overview of this particular subject, Environmental and Disaster Management. So the word environment is a French word in origin where environ means around or to surround. Our environment is very important to us because it is where we live and share the resources with other species. Environment studies is all about learning the way we should live and how we can develop sustainable strategies to protect the environment. Further, the environmental studies is associated with the study of objects such as lakes, rivers, mountains, living beings such as plants and animals, which undergo dynamic changes. Apart from objects, there is also processes. The objects involve process like they undergo dynamic changes and they involve process like flow of energy and nutrient cycle. A close look reveals that life is dependent upon the environment like air, water, and land. A hidden treasure of metals or minerals such as coal, iron ore, bauxite, aluminium, fuels, fossil fuels, etc. They all contribute in making goods and services which render comfort and also increase the standard of living of the human beings. Environment provides a habitat for both plants and animals. Like for example, the plants, they give us food and also fuel for human beings. Apart from this, they also give an important contribution such as oxygen. The oxygen is produced in the presence of photosynthesis. The process of photosynthesis requires chlorophyll, which is a green pigment present in the leaves, and carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, water, and minerals. By combining all these things, photosynthesis takes place where the plant prepares food and which is utilized by the animals and the human beings. Then we can say that why we should study this particular subject, environmental and disaster management, to create awareness among the present generation the pressing problems of the environment and teach students about the ecosystem, pollution, and problems concerned with the environment. Sustainable development. The economic development which depletes the natural resources is called as the sustainable development. Sustainable, the ability of natural system to provide the natural resources and ecosystem services on which this economy and the society depends. For sustainable development, we need to educate ourselves and our children regarding the knowledge of the ecosystems and also the natural resources and their uses. Implication of population growth. There is a relation between the population growth and the environmental damage. It is a universal fact that population growth and the economic development are affecting the environment. As the population grows, the rural people are migrating from the rural areas to the urban areas because of the lack of space. Either they want to do farming or they want to construct buildings. When this is a case, they cut the forest, and this is known as deforestation, which is a cause of great concern nowadays. Then what is the use of or what is the importance of this environmental study? To sustain the way of living and to use natural resources more efficiently and to aware and educate the people regarding this environmental problems. Then we come to know regarding the energy management. So energy is an indispensable property which is useful for the human being. So energy can be both chemical energy and also it can be mechanical energy also. So here, when we say about this energy, it is generally, when we look at closely, we can say that it is generally obtained from the fossil fuels such as coal. Then the types of energy. There are two kinds of energies. One is non-renewable resource of energy and another one is renewable resource of energy. The examples of non-renewable resource of energy is coal, oil, gas, fossil fuels, etc. And when we consider the renewable resource of energy, then the examples are forest, sun, wind, water, etc. The non-resource energies, they are scarce and very rare in the available in the Earth's crust. So it is very difficult if we utilize this and without any restrictions. So that is why if proper care is not taken or if proper management is not done, definitely there will be a depletion of this non-renewable resources for the future generation. When we come to renewable resources, it contains solar energy, wind energy, but at the same time, we can say that this particular type of energies, they should not be overutilized and exploited. Nowadays, the people are affording to buy the things, and that is why they are utilizing more goods and services. When they are utilizing more goods and services, utilization of resources is also increasing, and this is becoming a great concern of overutilizing and at the same time exploitation of the resources. So proper energy management has to be taken place. Then present method of electricity generation all over the world is likely dependent on the coal. So the coal consumption is rapidly increasing, not only for the development, not only for the production of the energy, but also for the production of the steel and cement and running the steam engines. So I want to ask a question. Do you afford to use this particular electricity? Definitely answer is no. People should get aware of this particular crisis, and energy management has to be done to save the resources. Then another important concept of this environmental and disaster management is ecosystem, which is a very important topic in this particular subject. So the components of environment such as living and non-living organisms interact and function together as a unit called as ecosystems. Living components includes plants and animals. So ponds, lakes, deserts, forests, oceans, all these act as ecosystems. The living constituents, they are always dependent upon the environment. So this environment is a biotic environment when it is a living environment, and if it is a non-living environment, we say it as a abiotic environment. So this living environment, it enters into the abiotic environment and comes out into the environment in changed form. The structure of this ecosystem constitutes living beings. These living beings are of different kinds. They are producers, consumers, and also the decomposers. Producers are the plants where they manufacture their own food with the help of the chlorophyll present in the leaves. And the producers' examples are plants, herbs, grass, etc. When we come to consumer, there are three types of consumers, and the consumers are animals and human beings. The animals or human beings which feed, for example, the cow, dog, sheep, buffalo, and all these things, all these animals, they feed on a part of the plant or the complete plant, and they are said to be herbivores. The animals which feed on herbivores are called as carnivores, and the third category is omnivores, which they feed on both plants and animals. Then when the third category is decomposers. These are the organisms, for example, bacteria and fungi, which feed on the dead organisms. So they convert the complex organisms or the components into simpler components and they release into the environment, which is utilized by the producers. Now there are different kinds of ecosystems. They are terrestrial ecosystem and also the aquatic ecosystem. The terrestrial ecosystem is a land body ecosystem. It consists of forest, grasslands and deserts. The forest ecosystem, it includes trees, plants, herbs, etc. Grasslands, it includes grasses and herbs. For example, terrestrial grasslands and savanna grasslands. When we come to the third, desert ecosystem, this is the largest part in the ecosystem on the surface of the earth, and it receives very scanty rainfall. The days are very hot and the nights are very cold. And when we come to aquatic ecosystems, these are water body ecosystems and they include two types, that is marine and freshwater ecosystems. Marine ecosystems include seas and oceans, and freshwater ecosystems, they include rivers, ponds, streams, etc. Then we have to talk about another topic that is called as Environment Management System Standards. So an EMS helps an organization to run in a systematic and cost-effective manner. This proactive approach can help reduce the risk of non-compliance and improve health and safety practices for employees and the public. Then we have to mention about ISO 14000, which is an international standard that specifies requirement for this environment management system. So it provides a framework that an organization can follow the particular standards. Apart from this, there are other environment clearance certificate also has to be taken by the industries to follow these particular standards. Then apart from this environment management system, we also have to study about other topics such as environment accounting. So this environment accounting is a field that identifies resource uses and measures and communicate the cost of the company. It is a part of the actual accountancy and this gives an information regarding the environment and also the economy. Then when we talk about the environment audit, it is an evaluation of management tools which tells you about the type of audit you are doing, the type of implementation you have done, and what corrective actions has to be taken. Then we have environmental ethics. So ethics is a Greek word which is derived from a word called as oikos, which means customs. Generally, ethics are not being followed in the previous industry. But because of the fraud that is going on in the business and the standards they are evading, because of this, environmental ethics is also has been introduced. So the main purpose of this ethics is to study the relationship between the humans and the environment, values, and the non-human part. So it sees that the standards are being followed in that particular industry. Then we are going to study about the pollution. So pollution is a buzzword which is followed throughout the world, and this actually is not only a great cause of concern, not only in India but also all the nations of the world. So there are different types of pollution: air pollution, land pollution, water pollution, noise pollution, etc. So when we come to pollution, the substances that are released from factories and all other vehicles, they accumulate in the atmosphere and which are caused by the human activities, and finally they cause harm to the human beings and also to the environment. So that is why pollution is a great concern, not only for the human beings but also for the environment. When we come to air pollution. The pollution is caused in the air where the different noxious gases or the dangerous gases, they are released into the air in the form of sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, etc., and they are being accumulated in the form of clouds, which cause a great damage not only to the atmosphere but also to the human beings. That is why we study about the ozone depletion layer. That is why many summits are being conducted to study about the climatic changes and this ozone depletion layer. Then we have one more pollution, that is noise pollution. When the music we hear or when the sound we hear is pleasant, it is good to our ears. But when it is harsh and when the sound is beyond our capability, that is called as noise pollution. Water pollution, when the solid waste are dumped from the industries into the water bodies, then we say it as a water pollution. For example, the Ganga, Yamuna rivers, etc. Then we are going to talk about the soil pollution. The main factors of this soil pollutions are chemical fertilizers, pesticides, and human refuse. People are using these chemical fertilizers, pesticides, which are causing a degradation of the soil, and fertility of the soil is a big question mark for the environment. So these are the different types of pollutions that are creating a lot of concern today in the world. So to prevent such type of pollution, to bring certain such type of pollution to a stop, the government has made certain acts. And some of the acts that we can say is Air Pollution Act of 1961. Another act we can say it is which is concerned with noise pollution, that is Police Act, and it has been enacted in 1861. Then we can say about Aircraft Act 1934. Then we can say about Vehicular Act 1939 and Environment Protection Act 1986. So these are all the acts which are produced or which are brought forward by the government so that they can put certain restrictions on the environment. Now, another major important part that we have to study is the disaster. So a sudden accident or a natural catastrophe that causes a great damage or loss of life is called as disaster. So you can see in the slide, this disaster is caused by earthquakes, floods, and tornadoes, volcanoes, etc. So this particular disaster is again classified into different types, such as natural and man-made. So natural disasters examples are earthquakes, floods, tsunamis, volcanoes, landslides, avalanches, etc. Then man-made disasters, they also include biological, chemical, then conventional and nuclear also disasters. So when we come to earthquakes, these are caused generally due to the tremors produced in the earth, and so they are caused and they cause a lot of heavy damage to the not only to the people but also to the environment. Floods, when there is an overflow of the water beyond the normal, we say it as a floods. Already you people might have known about the floods. The recent rains are causing a lot of floods in various states in India. Tsunamis are also part of floods. So we know that the Chennai tsunami, which is a very important part where many people, thousands of people have been evacuated, they have been rehabilitated, and there was a lot of property loss also. Volcanoes are generally formed due to the eruptions of the mountains, and when the volcanoes break, the liquid called as magma comes out and poisonous gases are also evolved, which causes a lot of damage to the environment surrounding that particular volcanoes. And landslides. So landslides generally, you can see them on the high mountains. So this causes a lot of damage to the environment and the people living nearby that particular landslides. Then when we talk about man-made, these are the disasters that are made by the man. So there are different types of man-made disasters like nuclear disasters, the nuclear reactors. When there is some damage in the nuclear reactors, what happens is it leakages and causes radioactive particles to spread in the air, and this causes a lot of damage to the not only to the population but to the environment surrounding this nuclear reactors. Then we can see about biological disaster, which are caused by microorganisms. That today, present situation of COVID-19 is an example, best example of this biological disaster. Then what about chemical disaster? The chemical disaster is also a man-made disaster. This is due to sheer negligence of the people of operating this particular chemical factories. And the best example is Bhopal gas tragedy. Today, even in many schools, we are studying the example of Bhopal gas tragedy. In the next slide, you can see the pictures of the natural disasters, where you can see the tornadoes, you can see the cyclones, you can see the volcanoes, and you can see the earthquakes. Then man-made disaster, you can see the nuclear reactors. And you can see that examples of man-made disaster are nuclear, biological, chemical, and conventional. So the Chernobyl disaster, which happened in USSR 1936, it is also best example of nuclear disaster. Then when we talk about the disaster, we have to definitely talk about the disaster management cycle. When we talk about this disaster management cycle, disaster management refers to the measures taken for the safety and protection of life and property from both natural and man-made disasters. Now there are 4 phases in this disaster management cycle. They are mitigation phase, preparedness phase, response phase, and recover phase. So what is mitigation phase? So mitigation phase, it reduces the efforts of disaster when they occur. What is preparedness? So in this phase, activities happen prior to a disaster, such as it is a continuous cycle of planning, organizing, training, equipping, exercising, evaluating, and taking corrective actions. So before any disaster occurs, they prepare, they become ready to tackle such type of a disaster. Another phase, that is the third phase, is a response phase, which is responding to the disaster. So immediately when the disaster happens, they respond to that particular disaster. And the last phase is recovery phase. So after the disaster happens, whatever the activities that are taking place, we say it is a recovery phase. So government releases the relief funds, medical teams will be there, medical aid will be given, and rehabilitation of the people also will be done in such type of stage. So students, this is all about the overview of the disaster and environment management. Hope you have understood and see further. Thank you. Have a nice day.